That's right. That lovely theme music means that this is Let's Talk, getting to the root causes of important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR. And in the studio today, the triumphant return of Stephen Hurwitz. Oh, let me just put you on the air instead of being in the background somewhere. Stephen Hurwitz, Shelley Rugg, Charles Schultz.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. And yes, our topic today, it kind of carries on from last week's topic, really, which was something to do with wireless communication. Anyway, we were talking outside the studio last week, and Shelley said, let's talk about...
I'm going to beat up
5G.
Charles.
I said that in the studio, but it was so peaceful outside, wasn't it?
It certainly was. After I disarmed you.
It was fighting in the streets.
My arms are still here, just in case anyone's concerned.
No, it was the razor you keep in your shoe.
Oh.
So Shelley said, well, we could talk about the G5.
The 5G.
And I said, what's that 5G? 5G network that they're trying to build, especially in California. There was a bill that was voted in through the
California
legislature all the way through. It went to the governor's desk and he vetoed it.
At the last minute,
At the last minute, which is about putting thousands of little antennas, transceivers,
like mini cell
extremely
towers.
high frequency, mini cell towers, and not necessarily that many. I mean, they're showing pictures of little tiny ones, but part of this legislation, part of the bill was that they could be any size they wanted, any power they wanted.
Right, they want to be able to do whatever they want, no questions asked.
So as
no interference.
An association of cities in California pointed out that this is really about the deregulation of the telecommunications industry and let them do whatever they want and don't do any research on possible health hazards, which is what another concern was, that these extremely high-frequency radio waves will be ubiquitous because they'll be every couple of 100 feet throughout cities, and even out here they'll be...
Especially in rural areas.
I'm so confused. I really am. I thought this was about the G-spot, and I just did my research on that.
You said you didn't know anything about it.
Yes.
Oh,
there you go.
that
I don't
explains
until
a
somebody
lot.
says,
All right.
it's over there. It's over there.
Gail, if you'd like to call 663-8492.
We can help Stephen out.
That's right. 415-663-8492 to tell us what you think. I mean, this is sort of just generally about cell phones. It's more specific than that. Shelley, how is it more specific than that?
Well, I think for me, I'm not going to claim to be an expert by any means, but I think my biggest concern is health, the health and well-being of humans and animals, because the cell towers, we don't see it, right? We don't see the signals that are sent out, so we don't realize that they could be impacting us. The same as, just having a cell phone in our hand, in our pocket. So I think, we just need to raise the awareness that it's something worth looking into to find out what risks we might be taking by using this equipment. And, the 5G network is a more powerful signal as well. So not only would it be everywhere, but it's a much stronger signal.
Is it?
Well, and Paul, you said that they can just put them wherever they want them, and they're going to be preempted by the federal government, local communities.
Let me read. Mark Dowie wrote a nice email. He's saying, the show, I said it was all about cell phones, but really it's about the networks that are involved in cell phones, which, you don't think about when you have your smartphone in your hand and you're checking to see if...
or you log on to the internet.
Or when the Internet of Things happens, you want to see what's in your fridge and whether you need to buy...
Exactly.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah. There's ads for it on TV now. There are fridges already that you can. There's an app.
Smart fridges?
Yeah.
How does it know if you're running out of eggs?
Because it keeps track of what you're putting in there, or you keep track as you put it in. Anyway, as Paul, he says, this is Mark Dowie, cell phones are really no longer the issue. There are almost 6 billion of them in the world, but that's 6 of tens of billions more devices in the rapidly expanding Internet of Things, most of which emit far more radiation than a cell phone. And as you observe, will require a gigantic build-out of wireless infrastructure, the construction of which is well underway, despite Jerry's veto of SB 649. That seemed like a big deal and a victory for local activists until they noticed that there are more than a dozen federal bills pending that will preempt any local autonomy over wireless infrastructure. The entire biosphere of the planet is about to be enveloped in an electromagnetic smog that will make tobacco, asbestos, lead, and pesticides look like health foods, and we will look back nostalgically at a time when only cell phones were a microwave menace. And he's aware of all this because he's writing 3 separate stories for magazines about it. So there you go, which are in fact-checking right now. So.
Well, I think the other thing to me is this Alvin Duskin was a part of the group, Alvin Duskin of Tamales, California, which is part of West Marin.
I've heard of Tamales.
Yes, it is part of West Marin. He was with a large group of people trying to prevent the nuclear power plant from going in Bodega.
Uh-huh.
And what he was told by a friend, and Alvin, if you're listening, call in, was that the federal government could preempt all sorts of blocks to to building this nuclear power plant, but they couldn't preempt zoning regulation for some reason. So they passed a piece of legislation or changed the zoning that all waste from a particular facility would have to be dealt with on site, something that a nuclear power plant could not do, and that's what they used to block new nukes in California. Maybe it was just that's how they blocked that one in Bodega Bay, but I think people need to think if they want their municipality, the place that they live, to be careful about where they put this infrastructure, think creatively about
zoning or local legislation that overrides it.
How you can avoid this kind of preemption that happens.
Yeah. And we have a caller. So, caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please? And please, keep your language clean.
Hi, Paul. This is Packy.
Hi, Packy.
Hi. Calling you from Colorado. I can't seem to stream you guys, but I wanted to just maybe stay on the line so I could hear what you were saying because I understood that the issue today was cell phones. Is that right?
Yeah, we're talking about the building out of the 5G network.
Yeah,
and
that's what actually concerns me enormously. And I have to say that just in my little town of Crestone in Colorado, I was part of a group last year that was working to defeat the smart meters being installed in, all over town. And it's a very similar issue. I've done a lot of research. I have a lot of very smart people on the committee with me who are much more knowledgeable about this stuff. But in a way, it's very similar what we're up against because the intrusion of this, constant radiation energy and the microwave pulsing from all areas and all features, smart appliances, microwaves, smart meters, cell phone towers, and now, God forbid, the 5G. It's terrifying because I personally have had a lot of physical effects from this technology, and I had a personal, revelation when I shut everything down and tested myself afterwards. There was a major, major difference in my body.
Can you can you describe the effects you were feeling?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was just, headaches, a lot of anxiety, not sleeping that well, a lot of joint problems. And what people don't understand always is that the effects of some of this technology undermines our own immune system. So it could be very different for a lot of different people. It's not always the same. That's one of the issues that they have about plausible deniability. But, just check your health issues. I mean, the smart meter issue is really front and central. There's so much research out there on that, on the negative effects of that technology, especially people who live really, really close to them. It undermines it affects your brain waves, not to mention your immune system. I mean, it is just absolutely anti-human, frankly. So the whole 5G rollout prospect, which it could be coming to our little tiny valley, believe it or not, in the middle of nowhere in Colorado, is terrifying because, as you said, as I read in that last paragraph you had on the email I got was, they wanted every couple of 100 feet. And the ideal, from what I've read, is that they want one of these damn antennas on every single house, like basically in the world.
Right.
It's,
and then all your smart appliances are tuned into that 5G, and then basically they control you. So, okay, I know it's paranoid, conspiracy, but
I'm with you on that.
It is out there.
So when you say they control you, in what way?
Mind, mentally. 5G is a mental mind control. The Israeli defense system uses 5G kind of technology for crowd control.
Well, that's for heat, because it creates heat, burns, Yeah,
and makes you crazy slightly, So,
Do you have a cell phone, Peggy?
yes, Charlie?
Do you have a cell phone?
No, I do not.
Oh, good. And I don't have a cell
I
phone.
do not have one.
And Paul Raffel doesn't have a cell phone. What about you two,
I
Stephen?
definitely have one.
I do.
I think the more dangerous thing to do when you talk about mind control is how we upload our memory to these devices. Nobody remembers anything, how to directions. It's because you always have this phone that you can go to that will tell you.
Well, as we said last week.
We are losing those abilities as we give them over to the machines. And
Right.
Oh, I disagree. We're gaining so much more. I want to go to someplace I've never been before.
Balance, you must admit.
What's that? Sorry, Peggy, you have to, there's a bit of a delay, so...
Okay, sorry. It's a very tricky balance between, risk and benefit, which is what we have to all assess for ourselves. And, when I had Wi-Fi installed in my cabin here, 5 or 6 years ago, I was very excited about, I can use I'm a writer, so I can write in every room. Just take the iPad in there. Boy, and iPads, don't get me started.
Okay, that's a mistake. You need to connect it. It's
Ethernet.
That's right. It's the not being connected, which creates all the radiation. You need to connect directly to your server.
Well, may have some differences there. Anyway, I had a lot of physical effects after the Wi-Fi started in my house. I disconnected that earlier this year. I had a brilliant technician who knows EMFs up and down come through my house, and we did a very, very, very rigorous diagnostic on where and what was causing certain really, really high outpulses, and it was revelatory. You have to give up a few things if you want to maintain your health. But for me, that's not a question. I mean, I have I have enough health issues on natch at my age.
So what did you do instead? What did you do instead of Wi-Fi? How did you?
I just hooked up to Ethernet.
Yeah.
And the main thing I really would like to get across to people, even if they don't believe any of this yet, but they will, is please at least disconnect your routers at night. It took me years to get there.
Right, it interferes with your sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly right.
All right.
And the minute I undid my router and started doing, actually it was the very night, I started turning my router off at night. My dreams came on so strong and clear, and I hadn't been having that same level of dream activity for years. So that shows you right away that there's brain wave interference.
Interesting.
I can't stress this more enough, because the only way we're going to stop 5G from coming and, really dominating our lives is if people wake up to the dangers.
Do you think we're going to actually stop it from coming? You said the
exactly. And
do you think it's going to come?
California, and Brown was on top of this. I mean, that is really, really encouraging. I don't know about our governor here. He's a Democrat, but he's a little waffly, Hickenlooper. So
well, because you can't stream apparently on KWMR.org. You can't get the stream to work.
I didn't. Well, I didn't give me that option yet. So what I would like to do is just, if I can, if you have enough lines to keep it open and to hear what other people.
And so what Mark Dowie, our local famous investigative reporter, he's writing some articles about this, and he said there are federal bills that will supersede anything that Jerry Brown has vetoed. So
I'd like to get back something that Charles said, though.
At some point, either we stand up for our health, or we just might as well lie down in the road and roll over us.
Charles made a point, though. Aren't we voting every time we buy something that uses this technology?
Absolutely.
It's a choice that people make, and I think the information is really what you're talking about, getting that information out. But
Exactly.
People are making these choices. They want this technology, and
So I think a big part of that is marketing, right? So the lobbyists and the marketers are all emphasizing the ease and the speed, and how great it will be for everyone's life that we have all of these options, and it's going to be more powerful and stronger and everywhere you go. But so they're not talking about, of course, the potential dangers, and
of course not.
yeah.
And making choices, but they're uninformed choices.
Right.
Well, there's
data. I doubt if they would go with all these things. The truth is being kept from them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm stunned by the fact that 4 minutes ago nobody had a smartphone, and now I can't find a 93-year-old in West Marin that doesn't believe that their life would end without it.
Right.
No, this is dangerous.
Where naked
That's
is
why,
more the word.
It may be a losing battle, but
naked.
my self-purpose, life goes on without a damn smartphone.
Well, and as we said last week, they've found that every time you get a little tweet or email or a Facebook thing, you get a little burst of dopamine. It's actually addictive, and they design these the websites and the social media. That was the subject last week.
Algorithms and
All the algorithms, they're built around keeping people addicted because that's how they make their money. Anyway.
That's the culture. That's their job.
Yeah.
Our job is to get free.
I think you're being a little extreme there.
Basically, people have
With releasing dopamine when every time.
Yes.
Is that why everybody pushes likes all day?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. It's built around dopamine, about your pleasure reward. Every time you hit that button, every time somebody writes you. That's why you have to keep checking.
So that's the end of the crisis over there with opioids.
Instagram.
Everybody on,
Yeah.
And let's just put this in. A judge in Italy this year has ruled that excessive cell phone use can result in brain cancer. There was a guy who worked for Telecom Italia for 15 years and was constantly using his mobile phone for work-related purposes, and he got a brain tumor. So the Italian judge has said that was caused by...
Well, they say it can affect your fertility, too, especially for men if you keep it in your pocket.
well, that's positive.
And causes burns. And,
How could that possibly be good for you, then, this technology? That's what I keep coming back to.
well, maybe it's good for the planet, though. Now. Let's talk about the extinction of the human race through...
Glad you have a smile on your face when you say that.
If we're talking about protecting the planet, the rest of the creatures on the Earth, maybe this is a good thing.
Yeah, it's instant gratification.
Well, I just think we live really isolated lives, and rather than having any kind of authentic community, our connections with other people are totally mediated by these devices now. People can't make a plan to do something without texting. People can't see their grandchildren without looking at them on FaceTime through a phone. What it does is it allows you to have an extreme degree of isolation and separation from other people with the virtual presence of the other.
They might not have seen their grandchildren except
exactly. They might
later.
have to travel, and we know how you feel about
Or they might have to live next to... No. There are not two options
carbon
here.
footprint
There are not two options here. You could live next to the people you want to see. How about that? You don't have to fly all the time. You could actually live next door to who you like.
Exactly. Here's another little factoid. Apparently 5G will not carry voice data. Voice service will be via older 3G systems or 4G over LTE, whatever that means, were implemented. So old 5G is for everything else, for data. But voice will still, those other networks that are in place are still going to be in place. So all the radio frequency emissions that are happening now will still be there, and this will be added on top. So we're just filling the frequencies with more and more stuff.
Right, exactly.
And because
people could vote for less.
Extremely high frequency is very short range, and that's why you have to have these transmitters, transceivers, in very close to each other.
Yes, exactly.
So you think we should have warning labels on refrigerators?
Well, you should if it has a smart chip in it.
Sure.
And what I'm hearing is that anytime you buy a new appliance now, it has a chip in it. I don't even know if you can buy anything without them, and that's supposedly to be ready to be set up into the whole smart grid network around the world.
Absolutely. You can
So
talk
part
to
of
your
5G,
fridge.
Yeah.
We'll have to start working with the Iceman again, like
Talk
the
to
good
your
old days.
microwave. Well, see, I was telling someone the other day, when I was a kid, there were electric carts bringing milk to your door every day in suburbs of London and elsewhere in England. Electric carts, the old milk
Right.
floats, they called them. There was bread delivery every day to your door. There were 3 mail pickups every day.
Wow.
And a greengrocer would come around in his van. You'd pre-order what you wanted. But he also had a moving van full of produce, and you could go out and shop from your house. So, yes. And remember when you picked up a phone, I remember picking up a phone in Djibouti, in a phone booth in Djibouti, talking to my parents in England, and it sounded like they were right outside the door of the phone booth. How long has it been since anyone had a clear phone call?
With the landline,
Without a landline.
I just don't think people ask themselves questions about what this is for. We need high-speed rail between San Francisco and Los Angeles. Really? Why? Well, we need to be able to download, a 5-hour pornographic epic in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Why? Nobody seems to be asking any questions about why we need these things.
Because we can.
Well, they just arrive and then people inhabit them. I remember it was probably about 1998. Nobody had a cell phone. And then by 1999, every 12-year-old had a cell phone. It just happened overnight. Right. I think it's creepy. I mean, I think we've talked about this in the past with social media. People don't know. My generation and younger do not remember a time where you learned how to read people's cues when you're speaking with them. 90% of communication is nonverbal. It's what people are
So
saying.
you're on the spectrum? Is that?
Oh, so you
I'm
can't say.
sorry.
You can't say.
Just teasing.
I think the phone. I think there's a link between.
You're wagging your finger.
I am
at
wagging.
me.
Yes, well, I have to protect myself.
That's okay, Charles.
I think
We
there's
need
a connection
petition between you two.
I think there's a connection between having kids grow up completely on iPads and phones
Yes.
from a
I
very
agree
young
with you
age
completely.
and what we call autism. I think autism might be a number of different things, but I'm saying that there's a new category of kind of affectless children that is
Brain
not
damage.
it's not a medical, it's not a genetic. It's
Well,
because your whole
even-
life is mediated
We
by a screen.
definitely, our culture has changed.
Even the FCC, which is maintaining hands-off, says that it's bad for children's brains. Cell phone
And we're not even talking about the overload of information.
Yeah, and again, the dopamine rush. I mean, they're getting the dopamine rush. They're being trained to be addicted to this stuff.
It's
That's why I read the
From
New
an
York
early
Times
age.
online.
I've tried talking to my daughter about this before, and she really doesn't want to hear it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, Bernie Stefan, one of our original hosts on this show, makes no bones about it. He's addicted to his iPhone, and he's against everything that humans do, basically, any kind of technology, and yet. He can't do without it. Let me just say, Packy's going to stay on this line, so there is another line you can call, 415-663-8317. 8317, and you can call in, and Packy will stay on the other line, and we'll all have a jolly good conversation. If you can't do without your cell phone, tell us, I don't know, what do you do when the power goes off and all the cell towers are down?
Very good question. All right, dear, I'll hang up. Good.
Oh, no, you don't have to.
You don't have to. Oh, okay, good. So other people can call in on the other line, because this way I can hear you. It's lovely.
I mean, the thing to me, I saw this so the way that our economy functions is that basically you have to spend most of your life outside of your house working for somebody else, blah, blah, blah. Very little time spent interacting with your spouse, if you have one, or your children, if you have children. And really being focused on another person, certainly a child, takes an enormous amount of focus and attention. And so, I was observing this mother who's a professional and was very successful in her professional life. And these kids are just bouncing off the walls because they don't get very much attention from their parents. And she produced an iPad, and the 2 kids just went to it, and they were silent for hours. They disappeared into a bedroom with the little games they play on the iPad, and it was perfect quiet. It was like the television for an earlier generation. But you can see
opioid of the masses.
Yes.
People who don't have the time or energy to parent properly can use these technologies to create the kind of silence that is so wonderful.
Well, in my generation, when I was a kid, it was the television.
Yeah, you sit the kid in front of the television. There you go.
You know,
The Lone Ranger.
turn it on, and the kids would sit in front of it.
So here's another little factoid. The what uses the same wavelengths as they're going to use in the 5G system, which is millimeter waves, they call them, because it's such high frequency, short range waves, are scanners at the airport. Not the X-ray ones, but the others. They do body imaging with the same wavelengths that are being used in 5G.
So when we stand in the booth with our hands over our head, is that?
And so there's going to be one of these boxes outside on your driveway, on the phone pole outside your driveway. And if they turn up the power a little bit, perhaps they'll be able to see through your clothing as you walk to your car.
You know, I'm a bit nervous about it.
And the other thing is what Paki was talking about in Israel, but just in Israel. I mean, China and the U.S. have what is called the active denial system, which is directed energy weapons developed by the U.S. military, designed for area denial. I love that. Perimeter security and crowd control, where they have these millimeter waves, the same wavelengths, high-powered area denial.
What does that mean?
If there's a crowd, you'd want them to move away. So what do? You point these millimeter wave heat guns, basically, and it heats your skin up. It doesn't penetrate like the other frequencies do. So here's the other thing. Here's maybe a good thing. What's working right now, 3G and 4G, those are longer waves and they can penetrate your skin fairly deeply, and that's why they're causing cancer and brain effects and all that. But these millimeter waves don't go lower than the top layer of the skin. So when this thing burns you, it makes you want to get out of there, but there's no... you don't actually have burns, except in a case where something malfunctioned and the guy got secondary burns on his leg.
Speaking of government control, though, I just keep thinking that the more we get tied into this stuff, the more power they have to essentially turn our lives off.
Sure.
Now they want to control transportation as well. I mean, with the driverless car, it's like they can just pull a plug and nobody can drive.
Sure.
And nobody knows.
Nobody will know how to drive.
Well, but also nobody will know that it's happening to you because all your connections are virtual. Nobody. I mean, Steve, if you disappeared from your house, I don't walk by your house. I see you on Thursdays most of the time. Who would know? Steven's gone.
Well, he lives in a rural area.
He lives in a rural. That's true, but I mean, is it any more anonymous than living in an apartment building in New York City where nobody knows their name?
I don't think so. But yeah,
you'd see him more frequently.
But then, what's the
point?
I
do have
what's your
neighbors.
point?
My point is that these technologies have an ironic function. They're supposed to connect people, but actually they create the conditions which we become more isolated, not more connected. Just take that progression. So when
it's a larger crowd, in other words, where we feel lonely the more people are around us.
The more connected we are, ironically, the more separate we can be.
Yeah.
Virtually connected.
Yeah.
Virtually. So when you back in the day, you would go to the movies, and the cinema was a craze, and everybody would go out with their dime and a nickel, and so this is leaving the house, interacting in a public space. When the TV comes in, you don't have to leave the house anymore, and whatever. So you're in it as a similar kind of example. If you look at advertisements for domestic products. Before and after the advent of air conditioning. Before, people are depicted on their porch, with neighbors in this place outside.
Fanning themselves and sipping their cold drinks.
I mean, and that when air conditioning came in, I had a professor that did a study of this. Interesting. So how it changed. The same products were marketed. And it would be summer, but the shades would be drawn. The woman would be in a long wool skirt and a sweater, sitting on a couch reading, or something like that. But this after air conditioning. Then you don't need to go out. You don't need to interact. You don't need to be with other people and have this other life. So technology has this ironic, paradoxical. Or contradictory,
and yet we
impact.
do. You're describing this world. I mean, air conditioning is all of us. We don't need any of this. We're already separate just because of air conditioning.
Yeah. Let me just say, this is KWMR, 90.5 Point Reyes Station, 89.9 Bolinas, and 92.3 San Geronimo Valley, streaming, even in Colorado, if you can get it to work, on KWMR.org. And KWMR Community Radio is supported by our listener members and the Bovine Bakery, located in Point Reyes Station, providing West Marin with pastries, coffees, soups, quiche, and pizza made from organic ingredients. Open 7 days a week. The Bovine Bakery. And we're also supported by Zenith Instant Printing in Novato, serving the community since 1975. Zenith Instant Printing helps with printing and mailing projects from concept to completion, or anywhere in between. 415-897-0454. That's 415-897-0454. Or online at zenithinstantprinting.com. Thank you very much to our underwriters. Here we are. This is Let's Talk. We're talking about cell phones in general, but the networks and the dangers of cell phones, sociological and medical and political. And you can call in with your comments, 415-663-8317. Call in on the other line. We have Packy Wright, late of Inverness and... or was it called Inverness? Yes, you used to be on the other plate anyway. And now you're in Colorado. Now you're beyond the Rockies. Call 415-663-8317. Let us know what you think about this 5G rollout. If you have any concerns about microwave radiation and this extremely high frequency radiation that they want to use now. And when you call in, you'll hear the phone ring, and then you'll hear this weird little noise as I put you in the system. Just hang on. When you hear me say you're on the air, then give us your name, and please keep it clean. Keep your language clean.
You know, I think one of the things that is the most disturbing to me is that they want to pass legislation that would basically give them carte blanche to do whatever they want, no questions asked, no research.
Sure.
Just because they want to tell everyone that this is going to be good for you. This is going to make your life better, yeah. Well, and you're just going to slow down progress if you try to ask questions.
Progress is our most important product.
You
but the thing, again, this is another problem of this sort of virtual world, is that people are connected to activists virtually across the country and across the globe. But in terms of resisting these kinds of things, you'd have to do it at a local level, which would mean being connected to the people who are actually around you, not your friends on Facebook.
Or you can organize across state.
But I guess people do use it to organize. But I just
they do.
But it's a local thing. Okay, so like I'm saying, Alvin Dusk and the people that stopped the nuclear power plant in Bodega, that was a local effort using local tools to solve a local problem. It didn't matter how many people in New York or London were in solidarity with the people of Sonoma County. It doesn't mean anything. The local is king. So the theory behind this is subsidiarity, that the power, all power flows from the federal through the states to local government. But the reality of our history is just the opposite. This apparatus that became states, that became the federal, what we think of as the federal government, the state itself, rose from the municipality to the formation of states and then the federal government. It works exactly the opposite way. So people need to have that perspective instead of thinking, if you want to change something, you've got to go to the federal level to do it. Well, I got to tell you, they have so many lobbyists from the telecoms industry in there. You're never going to out-lobby them on this issue at the federal level, but you could win locally.
Which is why the Tea Party was so effective.
Yeah.
The Tea Party.
We have a caller.
They were on the local level. That's what they said.
We have another caller. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please? And keep it clean.
Oh, hi. It's Martine.
Martine.
Bolinas.
Hello.
Bolinas.
And just a couple of things. One, if people want to know more about how to get involved in stopping the SB 649 or even finding out why we'd want to stop it, West Marin Standing Together is working on this, and come to the next meeting. I think it's the first Saturday of the month at the Dance Palace, and there's a whole group of people there who are working on this.
I believe the next meeting's in January.
But that SB 649 was vetoed, so you think it's still alive?
Well, I think the issue is still alive.
Yeah.
They're still trying to push it through.
Yeah.
Just because he vetoed it doesn't mean the whole thing
it's all going to go away. No,
dead.
Exactly.
And the other thing I want to say is I feel so sad when I see parents holding their smartphones to their heads. I mean, anybody really, but especially parents of small children. Come on, folks, get those things off your heads. The data is in. We know. There's so much evidence about brain cancer on it. And then the little kids, please, if you're going to give your kid a big phone, tell them not to put it on their head. And the other thing is there are wires that you can attach that have a a length of air tube on it, which will allow you to listen to your messages or talk to people without having the smartphone on your body or on your head.
Oh, it's like the old aircraft headphones that were just plastic tubes, right?
It's a plastic tube, and it will mitigate the radiation. You don't have to put that thing on your head, and
or throw your phone away.
What about the new Apple wireless? Now they don't have wires in terms of the music.
I don't know what that means.
You mean the
Bluetooth right
earbuds?
to your heads,
Yeah.
I remember Bluetooth headsets. Oh man!
I remember when the Bluetooth thing came out, and I was with a rather earthy crowd of working class people in Flint, Michigan. One of them commented and said, "Bob, looks like you got a June bug in your ear." So I've always remembered that about the Bluetooth. I enjoyed that. Anyway, yeah. So throw your phone out. Why do you need a cell phone? I still don't understand. You know what we used to do? Make a plan. Oh, you want to meet someplace? Let's make a plan, and I'll write that down on the calendar, and I'll meet you there. I mean, to me, it is, when you talk about these dopamine responses to getting likes on Facebook and things like that, it's creating people who just live second to second. There is no sort of calm in their life. There's no sort of deliberate, slow planning of things, because I think that we're dealing with a really strong sense of ennui, of normlessness, of anxiety about the future.
Charles
all
describes
these
us all like we're children.
Stephen,
People are in more control of their lives than that.
Stephen, sit up straight, Stephen.
Sorry, who was saying? You were saying something? Was that Packy or?
No, I was just agreeing with what you're saying.
That's right.
It's 2 against 1.
That's right.
Charles is feeling good.
It must be true.
So, Martine, do you have a cell phone? No. Martine?
I think she may have hung up. I heard a click.
Hung up. Thank you, Martine, for calling in.
663-8317.
317. And, Richard Dillman, you're out there somewhere probably listening. I know that you don't believe that radio waves cause any harm at all, so give us the technical
really
view of
that?
the whole thing. Of course.
Well, the funny thing is...
I think you do. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Richard, but I think from discussions we've had in the past, something involving tinfoil hats. And
yeah, I'd like to I'm glad you said that. This guy named Nick Penault, he was the author of something called The Non-Tinfoil Guide to EMFs. You might want to check that out.
Uh-huh.
Well, Paul Fenn worked in the cell phone industry, and he said that there was a silent sort of agreement between the entities, municipalities or whatever, who are licensing these cell towers and the corporations themselves not to investigate, not to know what's going on, because he said there was a pronounced increase in incidences of certain kinds of cancers for the technicians who were actually working at the cell tower sites. Yeah. But everybody be liable. The corporations be liable and the government be liable because they license them. And so they don't want to know. And so
exactly. Well,
that's not unusual.
No, it is not unusual. Yeah.
The trade lobbyist, or I had it somewhere and I can't find it now, but there's an association of telecom companies, and there was in a blurb from Association of California Cities. They were fighting SB 649. They said. They never say that these are safe. They never say that cell phones are safe because they know, like tobacco, when it comes down, that finally it comes to light, and there's some proof that everyone will accept that there is some harm possibly in cell phones, in cell phone use. They will have plausible deniability. We never said it was safe.
But where Charles isn't, where both of you aren't. You're not. No, could you live in a life where nobody has cell phones? I know you don't have them.
I don't. What was wrong with that?
Well, actually,
make a plan.
I used to have a cell phone. I lost it. It was a flip phone, not a smartphone.
Right up to your ear.
And it, right up to my ear. But I hardly ever use it. It's only when I'm on the road and I need to call someone and say I'm going to be late. Or come and get, or calling a AAA, because I drive a 30-year-old vehicle. And I just ordered a new one. Well, actually, it's a refurbished one, $10.
Yeah,
Right.
with that.
And I never use, it's in the van all the time. I hardly ever use it.
I travel without one. I was forced, because they got rid of all the payphones, I was forced in Nephi, Utah, to borrow the cell phone of the cashier at the 7-Eleven I was stopped at. And I got to say, those Mormons, they really are sweet. Good in a pinch, Mormons. But yeah, you could...
People in general can be known to be sweet, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Of all ilk, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I think, the Mormons, they're nice, and they're blonde.
They're so blonde and so white.
Well, but yeah, you can live without cell phones. Why do you need a cell phone? What is so important?
You're talking about personally, but when you go to the store and your produce is there, somebody called and said, "Hey, we need it now." I mean,
you used to make a list.
Society functions on
before
that.
you left the house. You would say, "What do we need, honey?"
So that's a whole other topic. I mean,
Do you need to talk to your fridge?
How about
so
landlines? Is that okay?
Yes.
So many things that we've created in our world, cars included, right? We can't live without our cars these days, that are bad for us and the environment, and we're so used to them. Yeah. And we're also constantly being marketed about the newest innovations, the latest thing, and that's important, that we have to have the latest, newest thing.
But you can sit here and you can rail against this stuff. There it is. It's happening.
Oh, great.
It's not like...
You can hate the Nazis all you want, but Hitler's here,
but
okay?
I think the issue is that
Sound like my
Deal with it.
the things that are bad about these things are being hidden from us for the most part, and that we only can find out about it if we really dig in and do some research.
Well, so here's a little health controversy about radio frequency dangers. Stems from what is known already about the biological effects of large amounts of RFs on the human body. In large doses, RFs can break down tissue in the body and wreak havoc with DNA. But the emissions from cell phones are reportedly minimal and pose no danger. So says the FCC, which is responsible for dissemination of this data for years. But what the FCC also says in another statement is it is generally agreed that further research is needed to determine what effects actually occur and whether they are dangerous to people. So,
but that would take time.
Talk about speaking out both sides of your corporate mouth.
Well, and I think with all of these things, it's like, scientific proof. It's like, how much do you need to know? How
Well, and there's so much about, not believing in science these days.
Right.
Well, what's with your computer there, Charles?
Oh, I love it. We're in love. Don't listen to him.
Up all
Close
that.
your ears.
Wi-Fi, man.
I agree. Same thing. So I don't say this as somebody who doesn't participate in the world. I certainly do. I just walk more and have a landline. But what do you say about believing in science? We all drive all the time. I mean, I do. But the science would tell you that the combustion of gasoline to move you around is going to cause climate change.
But do you drive a car that's smogged even?
No, and not registered. And if
There
you're
we
listening, local police, and not even mine.
There we go.
Oh, you can't say that in the air? Is that a crime? And none of that is true. Don't worry. It's black Mercedes.
Hypocrisy is what the other guys...
Anyway, yes, well, cognitive dissonance, right? I mean, it's part of human life. We all do things that...
just disavow of what we know, but I think,
disavow,
we don't have very strong visions about other ways we could live. And do we have a tweet?
We got a tweet?
Well, I don't know.
But
I just lost it.
So you have to have a vision of how things can be different, and allow that vision to be kind of articulated. And that takes creativity, and actually we're really kind of caught in a feedback loop with the past, in which, because it sells, we have an endless reproduction of things that have happened before, but we've really killed off of that part of ourselves that could imagine how things would be different. And the people who are doing some imagining are usually the techno-utopian creepazoids from Silicon Valley. Or you, Stuart Brand, in Sausalito, California. I'll talk to you later, Stuart. Or whatever. So they have a really creepy vision of the future, which is all about all of us using their products all the time, and they're having some success with that. But yeah, I mean, we could live in different ways, because you just have to have that memory that there was a world before the cell phone, and there was a world before these kinds of things, and we could do things differently than we do. And I'm not talking about going back to the Stone Age. I'm just saying that we could consciously place limits upon the degree to which these technologies penetrate every part of our lives. You know. But, you know, the funny thing is we feel very isolated. People feel like, well, it's just me, and there's this big world out there which I have so little impact on. One thing I think we've lost over the last 50 years is the idea of solidarity with other groups of people to achieve certain outcomes. I think people see themselves as very much lonely individuals who are very frightened by these things. 663-8317 to stop me from speaking any further.
I think, I'm not sure though, I think for a millisecond I saw a tweet from Richard Dillman, and oh wait, maybe it's up here. No, I don't even know how to work this iPad, but I can't find it anymore. So Richard, if you did tweet, give us another tweet.
Yes, or email.
I'll try and find it, or email
to
at Let's Talk on KWMR.
What are you complaining about over there? They can't see you.
You're so dependent on Bluetooth. You're sitting there.
Hey, this is a radio station. Let's not forget there are radio frequencies going out from our antenna.
Actually, I'm with Stephen.
So let's get
the new Let's Talk.
We're communicating. This is making it.
Everybody has to just come to one place. I mean, think of why, like, you know, what a town hall was. Now it's just a place for little, you know, performances and things like that. But it used to be that would be the function of a town hall.
I think the pub is what you're talking about.
Oh, that's good too. Oh, I like that. What are you doing after the show?
Oh, the beauty parlor.
Oh, the beauty
Barbershop,
parlor.
yeah.
They were physical places that people would go to have these kind of interactions and to learn things and engage with people.
Facebook is a virtual barbershop.
You can't get a haircut. What's the point?
Not yet. I'm sure there's an app coming.
Yeah, that's right. You just put something on your head and it cuts your hair. So, yeah, but I like that idea of interacting with people, because what it does is it teaches you where the boundaries are with other people and how you discuss things that are really difficult to talk about. I mean, we become really sort of set in our view, and it's very hard then to talk about things that are, you know, whatever, controversial, because we've forgotten, like, how you actually express yourself in public without fighting, you know, without being a Shelley who's threatening violence all the time. And
I could see that brewing in your brain
I'm just
before
kidding.
you said
No,
it.
I don't.
So Shelley, you have concerns about the health effects? I mean, that would be something that would be uppermost in your mind about the 5G network coming in?
Yeah, well, and, you know, I did catch wind on Facebook of some people theorizing, and I think I mentioned this to you guys the other day, that possibly they had done a test of the 5G network that might have triggered the fires. Yeah, but, you know, that's a pretty out in left field theory.
Oh, yeah, I wonder why. Well, you know, actually, while doing research for this and looking for...
And that there's actually weapons that are...
exactly, the heat weapons.
Yeah.
But I was looking for images to post on Facebook, you know, because we have a Facebook page for the show, and I came across this picture of a cell phone tower in flames. And suddenly that made me think the same thing. You go, oh, wait, these things catch fire.
Oh, yeah, smart meters
a lot of electricity,
also.
a lot of electricity flowing through them.
You can find videos of smart meters catching on fire as well.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I think it's, what was it, Taylorism? What is the one where the experiment when they, not Taylor, but they increased the amount of light and that you saw an improvement in worker productivity, but at some point that trails off. You can make the lights brighter and it doesn't increase productivity, even the opposite. It's
depending
too bright.
on what light as well is used. Fluorescent light is awful for people.
Well, in this case, I mean, it's just, where is the increased utility? Why does it matter if you can get to L.A. an hour quicker from San Francisco? Why does it matter if you can download that movie in 5 seconds rather than in 10 seconds? Where is the utility of this stuff?
Well,
I just don't see it.
It's all about marketing to us that we need to get it faster. We need instant gratification. We don't have time. You know, think about TV dinners. You know, we don't have time to cook.
Keep the addiction going.
We so loved TV dinners as a kid. Oh, that was like a treat.
I think you're being so unrealistic.
But there was an article in an engineering news magazine thing, and it actually said, "Why are we doing 5G? Because we can." That's why.
Right.
Because there are scientists at work who've discovered that you can do all these incredible things, so why not have them? And, you know, just roll it out, see what happens, and then, you know, then we'll find out what it does to people. That's it's the opposite of the precautionary principle, which they're using in Europe more these days.
Things have escalated so quickly, you know, change is happening so exponentially fast that it passes us up. We don't have time to realize what hit us.
Yep.
We don't have it takes time to recognize the effects and to be able to correlate them directly to the cause.
Right.
And so it's hard
and
to
then
convince
there's deniability.
people. Right.
Well, they were also smoked when they were 21, and they also had a child at an earlier age than they should, or whatever,
I mean, the feeling
like the tobacco industry did. And
I had an iPhone when I first moved to San Francisco. I worked in the financial district, and I remember going to buy it at the iPhone store, whatever it is on
you
whatever
had an
Market
iPhone?
Street.
Excuse me, you know your line's busy? 8492?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
Peggy's
yeah.
on there.
Oh, I see.
8317.
Did you
8317.
announce, that tomorrow morning early,
There you go, Charlie.
the gas station will be closed for a few hours
Oh,
early tomorrow morning?
okay.
Okay.
For a
Friday
few
morning.
hours.
By
Friday
the way,
morning.
I'm proud to say
Uh-oh.
this is my phone.
Oh, good old
Excellent.
flip
I'm
phone.
getting
All
one
I
of
wanted
those.
to do was make telephone calls.
But you keep it
not-
in your pocket. That's probably not
It's not a visual medium, by the way. Would you like to describe what you just pulled out of your
I've
pants?
already had a vasectomy. I'm not worried about it. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Charlie.
Oh, where were we?
Fabulous Charlie Morgan.
That's right. You will not be able to get gas tomorrow at Greenbridge gas
For a
station.
couple
You
of
will not
hours
be
in
able
the
to
morning.
conceive tomorrow with Charlie Morgan. So just everybody, anybody who's interested in doing that tomorrow will not be possible.
Safe man. Yes, please give us a call. We have 5 minutes left. Give us a call, 415-663-8317. Let us know. If you're looking forward to the Internet of Things, which is going to be the great rollout of ubiquitous radio frequency everywhere, because your entire house, every appliance in your house will have Internet capabilities or Wi-Fi capabilities.
I mean,
It's
an
hard
internet-enabled toaster. I mean, what is the point?
Right. Exactly. You're in bed, you check your messages, you hit the app and says, put the toast in now, and make the coffee,
dear.
and put the eggs on. You get down, everything's ready for you.
Didn't that movie Wall-E make a joke out of that, where everybody's just a fat tub that's on a little floating recline? It was an animated
It was a
film.
robot.
Yes,
Mm.
yeah. And because people do nothing, they
We
can't
have
even
a
move
caller.
themselves.
Hi, caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please, and keep it clean.
Internal revenue for Charles Schultz.
Oh, what revenue?
We want to talk to you about that. Anyway, I'm demonstrating the versatility of the cell phone.
Yes, we can hardly hear you, actually.
Be sure to come into the office, Charles. We know exactly where you live in Marshall.
Oh, well.
So-
see if you can find me.
Do you have a
Wait.
comment on the cell phone?
Scam phone call, by the way. I'm really serious.
Yes. This is a cell phone call.
It is.
Yeah, we can tell.
From the bottom of
Can tell,
a
actually.
pool.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say hello and know that you have at least one listener in the wilds of Sebastopol.
Thank you. And so
thanks.
do you have, are you looking forward to the 5G rollout where you'll be able to talk to all your appliances from your phone?
Actually, no. I have more technology now than I can handle. I miss the simple days. I'd go back to the rotary phone if I could.
Yes. There you go. Well, thank you, Mr. Blood.
I'm praising the cell phone because it gives me unlimited access to radio stations like KWMR.
Exactly.
So
There you are.
please send in your donations. It's never too late.
Good man, good
You
man.
can give those to me in cash on the street if you like. I'll make sure they get to the station.
But mind you, this is the IRS calling.
Oh, I see.
Well, thank you, Mr. IRS.
There you go.
Okay, good to see
Thanks
you.
for calling.
Bye.
Thank you.
So, yeah, well, gracious. Anyway, the feeling of smugness I had when I bought that iPhone was walking down Market Street with it was unbelievable. I felt so
felt
cool.
like a real man.
Or just, I'm hip or I don't know what. But it's like, yeah, I think, and if you become addicted to those kinds of emotions, then buying new stuff becomes
outdated now, though.
Well, it's how you manage your personality is to have these responses.
The latest, greatest, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I felt it, and then I moved to Marshall, and it didn't work, and I got
I
rid of
felt good when I got a large number landline.
it. Large number. Oh, the big.
So you can hit the buttons from any and actually read them. Yes.
I bought a pair of Chacos like 3-4 years ago, and it wore off in about 30 minutes. The person who drove me, the wonderful Yoni Goldstein, coming in tonight, I said, "Look, I got to buy something else right now. It's worn off already." But I think people do live that shopping, buy item to item.
I think that's true.
Boy, we're really going there now. Shopping's
Oh yeah,
it's
off
out.
the list.
No
Yeah.
shopping.
Get out of here, Horowitz.
No driving, no cell phone.
What's that need to have the latest,
no
greatest?
shopping
You know?
online.
I think it supplies meaning for
Online,
people who essentially have no
didn't think about
philosophy,
that.
are not reflective, do not know where they exist in terms of their place in history or what's going on in the
Small
world. They're
tests.
whatever. You get that they keep unwrapping little toys, and that supplies what being a fully developed human being, would do. Is you're not needy all the time like a child. You're actually able to control your desires and your impulses. And
Can you name one of those fully developed human beings?
No, myself, of course.
I
Now,
thought that's what you meant.
We should go get a beer,
During example.
and I could. I'll tell you
Foolish
more
human
about
being.
it.
Thank you, everybody. We have to wrap it up, I think. Packy, thank you for being on the air, online with us.
So much, you guys. It was really great.
Take care.
I love that there's at least a very heated discussion and thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, that's
We really need to, all of us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Packy. Yes, I mean, that's the point, isn't it? We all have to think about what we're actually doing. Conscious living, and there is a way, as Charles said, if you act more locally, you can maybe even have an effect.
Or just get the mindfulness app. It's just this little
The
thing.
mindfulness app,
Yeah.
exactly, yes. I Buddha. Thank you, everybody. Thank
you.
Stephen.
Thank
you,
Shelley. Thank you,
Charles.
Charles.
Thank you.
It was a
And
thrill.
we'll
Thank
see
you,
you next week.
Paul.